Honkai Star Rail was a game released in 2023 on the, everything by Hoyoverse, and I hope that it's not a hot take that this is the best game Hoyoverse has put out. It's extremely rare for me to follow ads, and really, that wasn't what got me to play it. If anything, Hoyoverse's excessive advertisements very strongly pushed me away from every single one of their properties. I really don't think I'm alone in that either.
Nice to meet you. I'm Natasha, an underworld doctor.
Shut the fuck up! But then I heard there was a robot cowboy in it, and I was like, oh shit, I love Victor Fallout New Vegas. And then I didn't get him, and I thought that there was no more meaning in my life. But they got me. I was already sucked in because the game is actually really fun. The mechanics are simple but deceptively complex. Every character feels unique to play in a way that reflects their personality. I definitely have some complaints, but I'm not here to focus on that outside of the fact that if Aventurine isn't rerun as soon as possible, I'm gonna have to do something drastic. You think you guys get brainworms? You think you guys get brainworms? I got Pregon disease! Aventurine time. Spending time, you saucy minx. Please, 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 please. No, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, where's my boy? Fuck you! Actually, I know it's the beginning of the video, but... Can I say something real quick? Can we make more anime boys that are over the age of 21? Please? I haven't felt this way about an anime boy since Leophotia in 2019. Aventurine is everything to me. This guy reminded me what it means to feel something. I want a honkai on his rail like a star. I want a star on his honkai until he rails. I want a rail on his honkai till he sees stars? Anyways, it's really no surprise to me that Aventurine is one of the most popular characters in the game because he's the best. I'll be honest, I'm kind of shocked he's not number one. It's just so fun and cathartic to watch his plans unfold exactly the way he wants them to. Even if it doesn't look like it, even if all the chips are down, he still comes out on top. He's like the ultimate gaslighter to the point he even gaslights the audience. He sees his life as worthless, but he wants to survive more than anything. Or does he? He loves being lucky and cherishes the goddess that gave him that luck, but he also sees it as a curse. Or does he? He doesn't mind being used as a cog in a machine because it's the least he can do for being spared. Or does he? Even with the full picture, his true motivations still feel pretty unclear. His path to redemption, and really what's considered redemption for Aventurine, isn't exactly what you'd expect either, but hey, I'm willing to gamble. I bet I can figure it out, and in return, he can rail on my honkai so I star. God fucking damn it, I'm so sorry.
It's like that kind of blood orange.
This is actually a gorgeous color.
Blood orange, she's so pretentious. Shut up, it's red.
Character design is everything to me. It's the first impression of the character, just a teeny tiny little glimpse into whether or not you'll like them. Just as some examples of my favorite character designs. Ralsei from Deltarune! You can tell that he's sort of a shy nerd archetype via the big circle glasses and the scarf that covers up most of his face. The witch hat and overall flowy nature of his outfit makes it clear that he's some kind of caster. Purples and blacks usually equate to DPS, but greens and whites equate to healer. All relatively accurate assumptions about his character, easily and effectively communicated through his design. It's okay for a character's design to not communicate everything at first glance, especially when the character is a liar or meant to be mysterious. Leo from Promare, for example, doesn't have a lot to tell about their design at first glance. They're meant to be kind of a mystery, but after watching the movie, you learn that all these belts signify the way they have to hold back their emotions so their powers don't get out of control. The jabot shows their soft heart in contrast to their hard exterior. Design changes can also show character development, like how in Hades, Chaos's design was centered around being consumed by the agony and chaos of humanity, but in Hades 2, they changed to this tailored suit, learning to control chaos instead of let chaos control them. I don't give a shit what anyone says, I adore Chaos's new design. Hoyoverse kind of ignores all these philosophies when it comes to their design a lot of the time. Like, bare minimum, tell me what her design communicates. Like, literally anything about her. Who is she? What does she do? Like, her job. Like, what is her job? Wrong. She's a reclusive genius with a capital G and a space station-sized ego. This isn't even technically her, it's just a robot of what she looked like as a kid. She just sends these out because she doesn't want to waste time she could be spending working on whatever project she feels like doing. God, she's so underrated. She's such a fun, simple character. Hoyover's designs are all style and next to no substance, which is perfect for Aventurine's character. He loves luxury, he loves being over the top, and despite all the bells and whistles, they do all serve a purpose. Roulette wheels have a lot of room for safe bets, going black or red, even or odd, high or low, giving you a good 50-50 chance, and Aventurine isn't interested in safe. He wants tension, he wants stakes, high risk, high reward is his bread and butter, so having it on his back kinda implies turning his back to something he'd consider pretty boring, but it's not worth totally ignoring. You can always bet something as specific as like 35 or whatever.
So, number 30.
No, oh, like, fuck, that was a placeholder. I swear it was a coincidence. His rolled up sleeves showing he doesn't cheat, he doesn't need to cheat because he has Gaiathra Triclops, a goddess blessing him with luck. Gaiathra Triclops is a goddess worshipped by Aventurine and the rest of the Avgens, at least when there was a rest of the Avgens. I'll get to that in a second. Avgen culture does have a massive love for intricate patterns on fabric, like the peacock feathers, jewelry, precious stones, especially turquoise, which makes up a pretty good chunk of his color scheme. Not to mention turquoise stones symbolizing luck and protection, which could be seen as another silent nod to Gaiathra. His peacock feathers tie into that too, not just symbolizing pride and beauty, but rebirth too. Aventurine was born on Kakava, the holiday where Gaiathra is reborn, hence the luck blessing, hence the really cool symbolic tie-in. His sunglasses are kinda underused, but they should really be more of a focus. It feeds into his poker face and hides his Avgen eyes because they're seen as such a dead giveaway. They're pretty neat. The fur collar and jewelry are important to his design too, since you can say that you're a gambler all you want. It's not impressive unless you're a high roller, and there's very few things that spell wealth and luxury more than all this shit you don't need. All his jewelry with the bangles and rings and earring add on to this too. He's not all talk, he plays to win. It's not just his visual design, but his kit says a lot about him too. I said before that I love how Honkai shows characters for their gameplay, and I really think it's their biggest strength. Chingcha is like if Garfield was really into Mahjong / Balatro, so you're literally just playing her favorite game, Celestial Jade, during combat. Jade is a businesswoman who makes dreams come true if you're willing to pay the price, so her kit is centered around getting other teammates to collect the debt. So with these things in mind, and how hedonistic and selfish Aventurine not so secretly is, why is he a preservation character? Preservation characters are, well, about protecting teammates with shields. This is brought up in the story, but he doesn't really give that question an answer.
Of course. I know you all too well. But it's strange. Why did you decline that invitation? You had the chance to embrace elation, was that not what you most wanted? But you chose the IPC instead. For the preservation? I doubt it. Do you even have anything in common with the preservation?
Oh, I thought you knew. Didn't you say you had me pegged? We're done. Either stop talking or disappear from my sight.
This is really cool because it has kind of a double meaning. In the simulated universe, which is basically a roguelike alternate mode, elation is the path associated with follow-up attacks. Basically, a follow-up attack is kind of like an opportunity attack in D&D. You get a free extra attack between turns, and his kit is all about them. Aventurine's kit is centered around shielding other people with his money, taking advantage of the opportunity given when someone else is hit or doing a follow-up attack, and making it rain. Elation is obviously associated with joy, people that follow up worship a clown god called Aha, for crying out loud. So the fact that he chose preservation over elation means that he'd rather be safe than happy. He throws money around because he sees money as a means of protection. I'll get to the nitty-gritty of why he thinks that later, but extending that protection is his way of showing that he values you and wants to keep you safe. Capitalizing on other people getting hurt or putting in the work as kind of a distraction reflects one of his mantras.
I don't make deals that don't pay off. So I hope you don't disappoint me.
Aventurine's attacks all ironically scale with his defense stat, showing how that money that's used as a means of protection is also a very effective means of attacking. Oh, look at me, friend. I'm Aventurine, your favorite guy. Money is power, so take $10 million. I'll just be right here if you need me. I will be the sharpest blade in your arsenal and you will regret every battle without me. But there is one flaw with his overall design.
So if you're from Africa, why are you white?
Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
No, this isn't a bit. Why is he white? Abjins are so obviously tied with Romani culture, the fact that he's white is actually kind of embarrassing. Don't believe me? Don't worry, I have a list. First off, Abjin is Romani for honey. Very subtle. Second, Kakava, the festival the Abjins have celebrating the rebirth of Gaiathra Triclops, shares a name and very similar meaning with the Turkish Romani holiday, Kakava. Abjin Kakava is about the rebirth of Gaiathra Triclops, while Turkish Romani Kakava is about the resurrection of Baba Fingo. Oh yeah, the other name for Gaiathra Triclops is Mama Thung, by the way. Coincidence? I think not. Third, Romani are unfairly stereotyped in the real world as criminals, liars, and thieves. The Abjins are unfairly stereotyped in the world as criminals, liars, and thieves. Do I need to go on? Why is he white? Look, I know not all Romani people are brown and some are white passing, but fucking come on. Hoyoverse has a really bad track record with taking from other cultures. They even take a Romani slur in another language and name the planet Aventurine's from after it, so that's awesome! I am not Romani myself, and I am painfully unqualified to talk about whether or not Aventurine's depiction as a Romani character is offensive or not. I know a lot of people are furious about the slur, but I haven't really heard anything else. I will leave those seeds and give Romani people the floor to speak up with their own perspectives in the comments. I'll be sure to bump them up to make sure everyone knows about it, but for the rest of this video, I am going to be treating the Abjins like their own separate thing. The Abjins were kinda always discriminated against for literally no reason. I mean, there was a reason, but unless you were bullied in high school for being a hot loner, you're probably not gonna get it. Basically, the Abjins were too likable, and everyone was jealous of that. I know that sounds like complete bullshit, but that was the case for me all the way up to high school. And if I learned anything as an employee in corporate America and an adult on the World Wide Web, age does not equate to maturity, especially when it's a large group of people. So the other clans on the planet started a smear campaign calling them untrustworthy criminals that weaponize their charisma. It's likely that the other clans knew the Abjins worshipped Gaiathra Triclops. Kakava is a pretty big festival for them after all, but Gaiathra Triclops is also the goddess of trickery, so they probably saw that as free ammunition. Fuck those guys. Even if the trickery of the Abjins is not universally done with any kind of malice, if anything, they seem to use it to protect themselves more than anything else. Their planet was inhospitable, clans were always at war over resources, so the Interastral Peace Corporation stepped in to, save the day.
They know the Abjin will surely hold a festival today. With the aid of this rain, they will come to destroy our wagons and take everything they want. Little do the Catechins know, this time we will fight back. The men in black that descend from the skies are on our side. The Catechins stand no chance against them, and will surely pay for their arrogance.
The clan launched a massive attack on the Abjin, who were under the protection of the IPC, resulting in 6,728 deaths and 3,452 missing. Finally, he proclaims, the hammer of preservation will fall on all beings, regardless of life or death, regardless of race, regardless of ideology, to uphold the basic rights we inherently possess.
The IPC's main goal, allegedly, is peace throughout the cosmos, unifying every planet under their monopoly on civilization as a business asset. I'm not going out of my way to paint the IPC in a bad light because socialism. It's all but directly stated in the story, and a character from Eurillo 6, Luca, was so unfairly criticized in the story for being mad about it, I'm still furious to this day. Future Market is a side storyline about his planet owes the IPC a dick ton of money for helping them build their planet, basically. That was 700 plus years ago at the time of the story, and the IPC, after realizing there were still people on the planet, decided to chase them down for debt collection with interest, saying they'd forgive it if they were given permission to terraform the planet and hire every single citizen on the planet as an employee under the IPC, including the children. What the fuck? Penacony has a similar situation, except the planet was actually properly owned by the IPC as a prison planet, but after they abandoned it, the prisoners basically reclaimed it and built it into their own little world. Yay. When they realized Penacony was actually making money, they sent Aventurine in to make an opening for them to try and start negotiations to get their investment back, so to speak, because they were pissed that they weren't answering their calls. Gee, I wonder why. The IPC is an evil megacorporation. The Avgin's planet was seen as a little too broken beyond repair, not having any resources to meaningfully fix the hell planet they lived on, not to mention all the war. So they basically helped everyone on the planet sort of leave and spread out to other planets, and also hired them, and they basically voted that the Avgins and the Catechins were the only two clans that should be left to die on the hell planet. Eventually, the Catechins asked for the IPC's help to just do genocide, like straight up, without Aventurine. The Avgins are most likely extinct. On Kakava, the IPC went behind the Avgins' back when asking for support, saying they'd help without saying they were helping the enemy, because everyone was saying the reason for all the war was the Avgins, instead of the actual problems on the planet itself. Gee, I wonder what this reminds me of. Oh, by the way, reminder, Kakava is Aventurine's birthday. So Aventurine's birthday present was losing everyone he'd ever known, and then being enslaved by some rando thanks to the people he now has to work for. I beg your pardon? Everyone believed that he was lucky and given Gaiathra's blessing because of his beautiful, beautiful eyes. Being born on her birthday truly makes him one in a million. He's a genius, his schemes always work out, and he extorts his luck just enough to fill in the gaps when he needs it. Being the sole survivor means there must be some meat to those legends about his luck, right? Especially sharing a birthday with a goddess, and no matter how bad it gets, Aventurine can't be anything but grateful about it.
Pain and poverty are the trials of Gaiathra Triclops. She has also granted us a chance, and that's your good luck, Kakavasha. Your good luck is the most precious wealth we, all Avgin, have. You're a child blessed by Gaiathra Triclops and can lead the clan to happiness. So always remember to protect yourself and never resent the pain and poverty you're going through, all right? Listen to me and swear to Gaiathra Triclops.
Okay. We'll swear to Gaiathra Triclops to protect this wealth.
May the goddess Gaiathra close her eyes 3 times. Keep your blood eternally pulsing. Let your journey be forever peaceful. And your schemes forever concealed. Farewell, Kakavasha.
I have something to report to you about the new employee. What makes you so worried, Erwin? It's complaints about him, both formal and informal. My mailbox has been flooded with them, like countless pieces of paper. I wonder if it's worth reconsidering his inclusion in the strategic investment department. What do these complaints say? Mostly about his origins, those eyes of his. He once deceived the marketing development department by falsely claiming that there were energy sources hidden in the barren land of Sigonia, not yet effectively developed and utilized. A huge amount of funds was invested into excavating it before he realized it was all a scam. And then there's the notorious Aventurine case. He misled the Intelligentsia Guild into believing the remains of Tazaronth, the Imperator, and Sectorum were buried there. Despite the scholars being extremely cautious, they ultimately still fell into the trap. And let's not forget the letters from the counselors of the Sigonian sovereignty. They denounce his tribe for once breaking agreements and sowing discord, leading to significant changes in the balance of peace between the tribes, resulting in repeated delays in the signing of agreements between Sigonia and the IPC. Allowing such an employee to join the IPC would be a severe detriment to public relations. If these are the extent of the complaints, there's no need to tell me. You already know it all? Each gemstone holds unique value, and our task is to make investments. We do not need to appease those stubborn old-timers who sent in complaints, as these rumors will eventually reach... No, they would have already reached his ears. Well, let's take this chance and see how big of a surprise he can bring us.
What'd you say about us? Look at this. Who the fuck is this? Is this Vriska? Is this no, that's James? Is this James Stryker? I don't know what this is.
That's Tyler.
Die, Vriska. Tyler Creator. You don't belong in this world. Go back to Homestuck. I just sent her back to Homestuck.
There's a lot of layers to the question of why Aventurine never loses. It's really easy to chalk it up to because he's lucky, but he is genuinely a smart and extremely clever character. Getting his freedom alone was a really complex scheme that probably took a good few years to execute. Obviously, step 1, kill your owner. Fuck that guy! Aventurine was one of 35 different slaves branded and immediately put through the ringer to test his luck as a legitimate commodity. His owner bought him specifically to exploit his luck, and for no other reason. I'm getting some really weird deja vu here. Aventurine was bought for 60 tanbas?
Aren't you worried that the money you spent on me will go to waste?
I've got stacks on stacks, Blondie. The slave market is never short of self-righteous brats like you. But you look good, and that's why many customers are betting their fortunes on a scrawny brat like you. So go along now, and don't let your master down.
Just this little exchange really warped Aventurine's worldview. Money is power, and if you have enough power, even the losses don't really mean anything anymore, which translates directly to safety and no one having power over him anymore. To this day, he still sees his life as only worth 60 tanbas. But 60 tanbas is never nothing, and the best gamblers know how to turn that into millions. Step 2 of his plan was getting in a shit ton of trouble with the IPC. If he wants money to get into that position of power, the best gamble is obviously with the top dogs in the galaxy. And getting an audience with the toppest of dogs requires the toppest of bounties. Aventurine's planet is all but abandoned at this point, and him being an Avgin isn't exactly a secret to anyone. So being from that planet, he honestly might actually know what's buried down there. He says so himself that he prefers giving people a fair fight. Aventurine might even be the reason why they were so cautious, saying, hey, there might be something down there, but watch out. But they pinned it as his fault because they're racist.
I bet you won't send me to the gallows.
What do you want, then?
I want your Lenore to meet with me. I have something to say.
And then what?
I want cash.
It can't be that simple, can it?
It is that simple. 30 tanbas. The remainder of my market value. 30 tanbas. No more, no less. With this money, I'll climb to even greater heights than you. Grasp even more riches than you. I wager you won't give me this chance. Which is why you should call him here.
It is so fucking funny to me that he basically just said, if you kill me, you're a pussy, and it worked. After this, it isn't shown, but Aventurine's value was tested by Jade shortly after this trial. A lot like his previous owner, yikes, and the victory, all the effort he went through was really for nothing. Like, it just wasn't satisfying for him. The Aventurine, that symbol of power and of the future, is about to be officially handed to him. Yet it would have no more allure or value in his eyes as soon as he obtains it, even though he had sought it by putting his life on the line. Do you have any more questions, Aventurine? Jade, the only person he knows among the presently gathered, asks at the end of the meeting. The Avgins on Sigonia. What happened to them afterward? Unfortunately, there are no more Avgins in Sigonia. You're the last lucky dog. What about those people who helped me on planet... Now I can finally repay their kindness. They are no more either. He returns to his office in a daze. The Aventurine stone emits a peculiar glow on his desk, seemingly congratulating and mocking him at the same time. Was luck truly on your side when you wrestled with fate? I always thought that the branding being shown on his neck is really telling about his character. It's ironic how the lesson he learned from his owner, money is power and with enough money you can never lose, just laid the foundation for him still being powerless. He's just a slave to the IPC instead of some guy. He could hide his branding, but the rest of his design is so painfully honest about who he is, it just feel like lying. Victory for Aventurine is an inherently unsatisfying thing. When you win over and over and over again, the sheer act of victory, the rewards, especially when none of the rewards are his freedom, just become kind of meaningless. When you lose sight of that finish line, why bother?
I prefer the beggar over the rich man. The rich have no idea what they're after in life, but the beggar, those folks, they know exactly what they want.
This line struck such a chord with me because Aventurine has been both the beggar begging for survival and independence, and now the rich man totally aimless outside of what he's been told to do. He might not be able to live up to those expectations of leading the Avgins, but he can always fuck around, right? The thrill of the chase and the adrenaline he gets from a crazy risk is the reason why his schemes always end in victory one way or another. Even when he loses, he still wins because at least he can say he had a moment where he actually felt something. Risking his life is, hilariously, what gives his life meaning. Winning has honestly gotten kind of boring for him. Hedonism through vices like gambling and overspending is his form of gaining control over his life because it's the easiest way to chase after cheap thrills. He doesn't have any goals anymore, no hopes or dreams, so he needs something to feel alive every now and again. If he isn't coming up with reckless schemes, he just isn't having fun. The plot he went through to take back Penacony is fucking crazy and, of his own admission, unnecessarily complex. So everyone's racist against Avgins and Honkai, right? I hate to say it, but it feels objectively true. Aventurine has to factor that into every plan he has. If everyone thinks you have an ace up your sleeve, you better shove 10 more aces up there as insurance. And if they're not racist, you better give them another very good reason not to trust you because that's what your entire plan hinged on. He knew getting the IPC in front of the heads of Penacony was gonna be a major pain in the ass. Not having a mental breakdown through reliving past trauma, pain in the ass, but still a pain in the ass. The Aventurine stone he was given after that test was a stone heart, one of 10, and each one has some kind of power and is tied so closely to their users' identities they change their names to those stones. They're everything to the 10 stone hearts, and there's no way Aventurine could easily bring his through Penacony's airtight security.
Oh, we're here at last! The family sure doesn't play around with their entry protocols. Our bags probably know what it feels like to be a celebrity now with all that attention.
So he locked it up in a funny little box, and that's not his cornerstone. Ah, so his cornerstone is in the bag. That's not his cornerstone either. It looks like an Aventurine, but that's a jade. I was into Steven Universe. You can't trick me. He shattered his cornerstone and left it in the money bag disguised as some generic gems. Dude, you could lose your job over this. To make it even more believable that he doesn't have it, he starts throwing around gems like he's gonna die in 17 hours, and for the last bit of his plan, he needs your help to make sure every last person in Penacony can watch it happen. Aventurine is highly tactical in every single motion of his character, to the way he carries himself, to the timing of how he acts and reacts. When he has a job, there isn't a single second that isn't calculated in one way or another. He isn't just an overdramatic show-off for the sake of it. He makes himself known when he needs to be known. Like when he meets you for the first time at the hotel.
I suppose such an exceptional figure such as yourself wouldn't mind paving a convenience for us?
I must be hearing things. Paving a convenience? Shouldn't I be saying this to you instead? I've been waiting here for more than 10 minutes. Do you know how many credits 10 minutes is worth to me?
As such, you won't just be sparing much of your invaluable time, but also forging new friendships.
Well, this is interesting. And how will my new friends benefit me?
Now this is a topic very much worth getting into. Just as we are guests of the Watchmaker, why don't we make ourselves comfortable in Penacony before getting to know each other more elaborately?
Sounds good. But, Miss Navigator, I must point out that if I do something about it now, the time saved is from my own effort, not a favor from you all. But what you said in the second half, I loved it. Friends, yes, nothing is more precious than friends. Especially a righteous trailblazer like a Nameless. Going forward on this Penacony trip, I'll be counting on all my trailblazer friends here. Looking forward to a delightful time with you all.
It looks like he sees you as an asset and he's putting you in a position where you owe him, and honestly, he kind of is, but mainly, Aventurine wants you to remember and hate him. He has the balls to call himself humble while strutting around in Dolce & Gabbana. His passive aggression is very pointedly in your direction, and him deciding to help you so easily, but not easily enough or it would look suspicious, makes it obvious that he was bitching over a problem he could have easily solved on his own. He just saw an opportunity and decided to take it because that's really what Aventurine does best. The Astral Express is an invaluable asset in terms of friends to keep around, completely independent, extremely competent, and generally liked by pretty much everyone. But you can't seriously trust Aventurine at this point, can you? The word friend trickled out practically like poison from his lips, like he himself also despised the idea of being associated with you. He acts like he only sees you as an asset, throwing around money in an obvious trick to get you to like him more. And for that reason, you already have your guard up around him. If he gets you to see him as the villain when he keeps whistleblowing against Acheron, you just don't believe him.
In short, you need to thank this lady here, my friend. Not only did she not betray you, on the contrary, she rescued you. From that Galaxy Ranger.
Who could have done it, friend? The only one is her. The girl who calls herself a Galaxy Ranger. An imposter. An unsought guest. An emanator who hides her true identity.
The family's first protective measure should be against malicious actors among the guests, such as that IPC envoy.
Indeed. He was particularly concerned about that Galaxy Ranger.
Are we missing the forest for the trees here? I always felt that Aventurine's reasons for accusing Miss Acheron were highly subtle. Can we believe him?
At this point, I'm afraid the only ones we can trust are ourselves.
You naturally gravitate towards Acheron because he plants the little seeds of curiosity in you. What he's telling you aren't exactly ridiculous conclusions, they're definitely worth investigating at the very least. And when you find out what her deal is, you've already taken the role he wanted. He had to make himself out to be the villain, sowing discord for seemingly no reason, so he could rely on you to team up with the underdog and become the hero.
Let me be a little clearer. I will detonate the Stellaron in you and cause a teeny, tiny accident on Penacony. You wanna bet? Sure, I'll bet with you. I'm betting that it'll be a sweeping victory for me. By detonating an unprecedented explosion to prove that the vow of harmony is a complete and utter joke.
Aventurine makes his death as grand and public and attention-grabbing as humanly possible. He makes it a proper show with build-up and stakes. He really didn't need to fight you, but if he just lays down and takes it before the metaphorical audience all piles in, he won't get the effect he's looking for. I can't help but wonder if the act of breaking his cornerstone and putting it together wasn't just so he could smuggle it in, but to nerf himself on purpose, because if he didn't, he'd kick your ass. They had to nerf his fight because he's that fucking powerful. What do you even do against this? This was all done to commit insurance fraud. This entire scheme is the equivalent of making a Rube Goldberg machine to slip on a floor without a wet floor sign. None of this was targeted at you. And like, 50% of Penacony's story, this is Aventurine's world and you're just living in it. And it's just so fun to find out how much of the story was planned and woven together. That is, until...
The best way to prevent others from seeing your true colors is to first be able to fool yourself. Really? You can't even fool yourself. You just got lucky this time.
There was a pretty big part of his plan that wasn't really planned. It's what we kids in the business call facing his past. Can I talk about how fucked up this guy is for giving him this bullshit last chance only to make him hallucinate trauma from his past? Like, it's not enough to kill him. He has to psychologically suffer too. Oh my god, my voice cracked so much at that. The goal is definitely insurance fraud, and antagonizing Sunday was absolutely a part of it. Making an enemy of the family and being so petty he becomes the exception to the no-death rule is an obscenely bad look. Benefit and fear, the two types of opportunities to focus on, and he hard focused on fear. He just didn't expect Sunday to bite back so hard where he ends up chasing his past and ignoring his future, because Aventurine doesn't think he has a future after this. He doesn't recognize his younger self or even give a name to his future self because as far as he's concerned, he's just some annoying spectator reaffirming what he already knows. Current Aventurine seems to look back at his plan with some level of remorse, but his future self almost feels like he's bragging about it. His future self is proud and demeans him for being so stuck in his past, while his past self is really just here for a good time, not a long time. Something interesting that I saw people point out is the fact that the quest descriptions for this part of the story are pretty obviously written by Aventurine. It starts off pretty fun with a tiny bit of foreshadowing and just gets progressively more terrifying. The head of the Oak family in Penacony, who seems to find you intriguing, invites you for a private chat. That's exactly what you need. To meet him, you visit the Dewlight Pavilion with Dr. Ratio, having no inkling of the perils that lie ahead of you. Talk to Hendrik the guard and embark on you two's journey at the Dewlight Pavilion. You ask the knowledgeable Dr. Ratio to help you look for a pinball machine model in the meditation room. So happy for him. Through a sneaky magic trick, you get your hands on the gift money and your cornerstone, the Aventurine. Things get ugly, but your plan is still being executed at a timely pace. Not even the impending death can stop you. The murmurs in your ears grow louder, more booming. You can even see another. Let's hope you can hold on until the moment you step onto the stage of the amusement park. You are completely tranced by the Aventurine boy. Just who is he? There's still time. Maybe you can catch up to him and ask him exactly what. Your wounds will never heal. 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 You cannot escape from your past. 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 So he's like really normal, as you can tell. This is really hilarious, considering that near the beginning he says that Penacony is 100% his seed, and he's ready to have a good time. Don't we miss when life was simple? But you know what? It's fine. This ended up being really good for him, actually. Hear me out, okay? He wore himself out. Well, it's not really accurate to say all this chasing around wore him out. He was worn out such a long time ago. He's been tired of running and chasing after some kind of meaning, mentally scraping by just for the sake of survival. And he's stuck. He can't get out of his job. He quite literally owes the IPC his life, and the only way he can possibly get out is to go somewhere where they'll never find him. Somewhere he can really have some peace and be alone with himself and just enjoy his own company for once. The only person in this quest who isn't having a good time is the current Aventurine. Kakavasha doesn't have such a long past of torment to hate, and future Aventurine is killing Oswaldo Snyder with Boot Hill. He's having the time of his life. It was all leading up to his big fight on the main Penacony stage, his last chance to cut out of the rat race and lead his own life by baiting Acheron into sending him to... Acheron, where the fuck are we? It's hard to ignore the excellent show Aventurine puts on as someone ready to turn these little deaths into a flat-out massacre. He says before that he has to fool everyone, including himself, to make a lie that much more believable, but it just makes every failure to do that stand out that much more.
Everybody's like that, down to the last player. So why can't I be happy too? Why can't I feel that free?
Aventurine's risks are never really as risky as they look. At the end of the day, dying in a dream never means dying in the real world. Even if it's a construct, it's still a dream. Every time he risked his life in the dreamscape, the worst thing that would ever happen to him is that he'd wake up and feel very out of it. But is that really what he's talking about? No. No, it's not. He's jealous of your lack of expectations. Everyone expects the high roller to win. No one expects the underdog. You don't have a history or trauma for people to base their assumptions off of. You're pretty much a blank slate. Aventurine has had the world on his shoulders ever since he was a child. Everyone expected him to be so much greater than he could have ever imagined. Everyone expected him to lead the Avgens, and the IPC expects him to be one of their best players, and he can't just say no and disappoint everyone around him. He has to keep working and proving his value, or else what's the point of Gaiathra's blessing? Even worse, what's gonna happen if he underperforms? Is Jade gonna collect her debt and kill him? He's not just tired, he's completely burnt out. But if it wasn't for his past and future selves, Aventurine probably would have just given up.
Admit it. You're tired. We all are. Which is why we chose to stay here. Me and him. Your past and future.
How long will you stay?
Forever. We'll be with you forever in this dream. This is the greatest honor that we can offer to those who hurtle towards death.
He was on the fence about it for a while, and while Acheron's words definitely helped, it was ultimately his decision on what he should do in the last act, and it warms my heart so much that he chose to let go. There's a really interesting message you get at the end of A Walk Among the Tombstones if you own Aventurine, because even he didn't know how he wanted to finish this off. Hello, Mr. Stellaron. You're still alive? Such a pity I cannot read your response. This is a scheduled message. By the time this text arrives, our conflict should have come to an end. If all goes well, we may still have a chance to meet again, but who knows? Sometimes I, too, have my fair share of setbacks. Let's say goodbye for now, friend. Aventurine sends you his heartfelt gratitude and utmost respect. May joy reign over your journey. So, let's revisit those questions I asked in the beginning. He doesn't mind being a cog in a machine because the least he can do for being spared. Or does he? If he had a normal boss, he definitely would. He'd hate it so bad. But Diamond is so focused on results, he can make the journey as fun as he wants. Being a member of the Strategic Investment Department is weirdly another part of his luck. He gets the chance to do something he loves. What he loves is just not technically in the job description. He wouldn't go out of his way to make his scheme so complicated if he didn't like coming up with them in the first place. He doesn't care for the destination, but he does value the journey more than a lot of people. Plus, the fact that he makes them so complicated makes the money feel a lot more earned. It's not his fault no one could see through the mask. Honestly, to an extent, even himself.
Well, you wouldn't be in this state if you could just get with the program. And why couldn't you? Out of professional integrity?
Those techniques you mentioned are highly efficient, but it's not that I don't know about them. It's more like I couldn't care less. Get it? What fun is it if the fight isn't fair?
Fair? You assume your opponents would fight fair in the first place.
He loves being lucky and cherishes the goddess that gave him that luck, but also sees it as a curse. Or does he? This is a hot take, but no, he doesn't see it as a curse. Well, I'll admit, that one's a little bit more nuanced. He knows that he's not supposed to hate being lucky. It has a touch of Catholic guilt tied to it. He hates the predictability of it, but since he learned how to capitalize on it, he ended up embracing it more than anything. Aventurine says he doesn't like making deals that won't pay off, but really those high risks are what make him feel alive. It's when he feels the most connected to Gaiathra, because his luck always helps him at just the right time, which relates to the next question. He sees his life as worthless, but wants to survive more than anything. Or does he? I don't think he sees his life as worthless, but I do think he sees his life as worth less than the people around him. He does want to survive more than anything else because he doesn't have the passion for much of anything beyond that. We all make mistakes, we all have lapses in our judgment every now and again, and to avoid getting particularly dark and specific, while other people's words can help you lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. Aventurine wouldn't have chosen survival if he didn't really want it deep down. The fact that I can call this a lapse in judgment and it doesn't feel ham-fisted or painfully optimistic on my part shows how insanely human Aventurine feels as a character. Religion is a very complicated thing, and your relationship with the god you worship is going to be kind of messy, because if you have a god you look to as the highest authority, it's hard not to flip them off when terrible things happen. Life is messy, and getting your faith tested fucking sucks. Back when I was about to go into his fight with Acheron, you remember, you didn't think this was gonna loop around, but it did. Looking in the black hole of the world, tempted to go in, he does. Putting his trust and faith in Gaiathra, spitting him out where he'll be safe, and she sends him right where he belongs, even when it looks impossible to bring him back, going into the mouth of an eon when Gaiathra is just a mere deity. She does it anyways. It was just like any other gamble, but instead of not caring if he won or lost, he so desperately hoped he'd win the jackpot. Aventurine's story isn't about how hard his life... Well, it is about how hard his life was, but people focus so hard on that they completely lose the forest and the trees. More importantly, it's about letting go of his expectations and embracing the parts of himself that he used to see as weak and incredibly vulnerable. After taking that one strike from that emanator's blade, I waded into a river wider than any I've seen in my life. I thought I'd reach the end, but as you can see, I'm still alive. And I'm happy about that. The one thing that kind of bums me out about making these videos is that I'll have a lot of headcanons or little things that I want to point out that just don't really fit into the video a lot of the time, so I'm trying this new thing where I just spend the last part after wrapping up yelling at you. Let's get started. Aventurine loves magic tricks. I think that's painfully easy to overlook, but come on, what do we call this coin shit? I thought it was interesting realizing how ironic it is that Aventurine was a prisoner to the IPC only to be assigned to help take over the IPC's old prison planet. That's just really funny to me. I think the dynamic with the 10 stone hearts is really cute so far. His banter with Topaz and Jade was just super funny and endearing in checking out. Another benefit for him as a Stoneheart is the fact that he kind of has a new family. It's sweet. It's just really sweet. I couldn't stop smiling when I got to this part of the side quest. The writing is just so fun here. Okay, this one's a really crackpot theory. But what if Aventurine isn't just lucky, but to an extent psychic, too? Gaiathra Triclops is a goddess with a third eye. How did he know Himiko was the navigator? How did he know Acheron was an emanator? How did he know you had a bomb strapped to your chest? The straw that broke the camel's back for me were the achievements that you get after all the sad tales and after beating Aventurine. Sybil, what do you want? She replied, I want to die, respectively. According to the Honkai wiki, these are references to the Kumeyan Sybil, who is a prophet. Oh yeah, I guess it was usually a shipping part of the video. Couldn't figure out a good place to put it, so I guess it's going here! Ratio and Aventurine. I'll be controversial again. I don't really like Ratio and Aventurine. I am deathly afraid of falling for yaoi bait, and I'm not gonna give Hoyoverse of all things the satisfaction. But I will give the Sonic movies the satisfaction because they fucking worked for it. Plus, I can be one of those people where the more I see something, the more it annoys me, so yeah, this is y'all's fault. Sunday and Aventurine is super underrated, and I really hope it gets more fans due to the parallels in 2.7. It's just a really interesting pairing, and I'd love to see more of it. Topaz and Aventurine confuses me. I see their dynamic as so brother and sister, the idea of shipping them just feels kind of weird. Love Boot Hill and Aventurine. I thought at one point he joined the IPC for a long con to get Oswaldo Schneider and just got disillusioned, like Boot Hill just relit the fire under his ass that went out a while ago. That's free. Take that interpretation if you want. I think it makes it so much cuter. But the actual best ship is me and Aventurine. Please, like, let's be honest, I'm a game designer. He loves playing games, coming up with better strategies through learning how to make games, so he teaches me how to become a better Poke player. Is a really fun and cute dynamic, not to mention the fact that he's really lucky and I'm really unlucky. Like, there was one time in D&D where I legit rolled 3 nat 1s in a row and I can never get a fucking 5-star. This guy needs to sugar daddy me like yesterday. I bought art. Twice. I picked dancing on my commission from Hallie because Aventurine is a TikTok dancer. I am not joking. I am not pulling this out of my ass. This is not a headcanon. They put some cute fake interviews of the characters and they call him a famous dance influencer. I know what you are. You guys are so weak for shortening his name to Aven. I call him Avi. Because he'd hate it. And it's French for life since his whole thing is surviving. I'm cringe. It's my cringe nickname for him and you can't have it! He shares a birthday with Byakuya Togami from Danganronpa. He was my anime crush in high school and I just want everyone to know how mad that makes me. I still can't stop laughing at this. He's a top. Aventurine can't be vulnerable, he's insanely generous, the way that he maintains some degree of control of his life is through his vices, he's a top. If I see one more short blonde twink with weird sort of pink eyes who is obviously a top depicted as a bottom, I'm going to do something drastic. I also feel like a lot of people tend to forget how much of an asshole he can be. Like, he has a really short temper, he's manipulative, and sees a lot of people as pretty stupid. He has an inferiority complex, but like, he's still a dick. Stop woobifying him. Anyways, in conclusion, draw me with Aventurine. I don't give a fuck if you like this or not, just draw me with Aventurine. That's my only request.
This is a joke. Please tell me what you think and whatever theories you have. I love reading everyone's comments.
There's a little bit of supplemental material in the description this time. What's linked below is a Spotify playlist that I'll be updating whenever I feel like it in my Homestuck God tier assignment forum, and maybe at some point a self-insert fanfiction, who knows? I know how y'all people operate. You rewatch these things all the goddamn time, at least you have a reason for it now. Okay, bye!